Paperless movement, your productivity, your way.
Maybe you talk a bit about your profession, what you're doing on a daily basis, so people get the context, why you wanted to optimize your productivity system, and then why you joined us in the paperless movement. And then we dive into the ICOR framework.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, I'm Rhea. I used to be a full stack web developer at a really huge company. But then about 6 months ago, I started a video game development company. So that's what I work on right now. And I started with no knowledge of management, right? Like I'm just a programmer. And so working in that corporate environment, you have all these like buzzwords. You have like agile and sprint and all these things that I was trying to integrate, and I was trying to do all these things, but it was clear that it wasn't really working because you just have this huge amount of tasks to do. And like you're working with all these different people and all these different assets, types of information. And like you're also working with creatives instead of like just developers. So there's that aspect as well. So it became clear that there needs to be some way to streamline and manage all of this. It became like a whole thing of like, how am I going to manage all of this? And that's when I found the paperless movement and the ICOR course. And I felt that instead of looking at like this huge blob of stuff, I was now thinking in terms of like information and action instead. And so when I started dividing things that way, that's how I started going through everything, looking at what I have, how I can apply these things. And then, yeah, that's how I went about making that system.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you very much. The moment you posted the framework, it became very clear for us as well what you're talking about. And that's why it's great. But I just want to know if you also went through the ICOR Mastery course before.
Oh, yeah. I went by step by step. I took a lot of detailed notes on it and everything. I feel like the first few lessons about information was really useful for me because I'm like what I would call like an information hoarder. Like anything that I see, I'm like, I need to capture this somewhere. And just like cutting down on what I'm capturing itself made everything so much more manageable because I'm not dealing with so much unnecessary stuff in my systems. It's just causing clutter and I will never use. And then going on and like looking at things in terms of like those breaking down like the goals and the projects and the tasks and the to-dos also was really helpful. Before, I was just trying to do more things than I had hours in the day to do. Like, it's just not enough time to do them. So it was natural. I wasn't finishing everything.
Yeah, that's great to hear that you had the first revelations during the course and that gave you the right direction. And then you ended up going into the ICOR framework. And how was it to start with this framework? Was it complicated for you, or how did you approach this?
So in the beginning, it was a lot of work just figuring out like, oh, where do I have information? And I have information like in so many apps because I'll just start using something. I'll put some key stuff in there and then I will move on to something else. And that stuff is still there. Like I still need to access it. And just going through that took me quite a bit of time, like just going through and getting all the information that I had. It was pretty straightforward. I just took whatever information I have and then I put it in.
And I think that's a good moment to open up your post actually and share it on the screen. So here we go. This is the ICOR framework section where people share their frameworks and their tool stacks. And here you started. And here it seems that you started to just collect all the things that you had in place at this moment. And very quickly fast forward. This is amazing. The jump from here to there. And now we want to discuss through this and then how we can further help you to further improve this. But I think just by seeing this is a huge step. Well, you have to tell us if it really was that life-changing for you.
It was huge. Yeah.
For me, one of the things that it caught my attention, okay, it was just in the middle, having just in the center of the ICOR framework 4 different apps. So I think that would be an amazing starting point because that says it all about the starting point, okay, and how chaotic we can become whenever we don't pay attention to the applications that we start using, where we start storing information, where we are doing our actions, managing our projects. So whenever you get this static view, you stop your crazy life and then you start analyzing and throwing things into the framework is when you really realize all the mess that you are doing. And obviously that's why people feel messy and uncomfortable, because you are dealing with this situation without noticing it. It's the moment that you write things down in our iCore framework when you start at least knowing perfectly your starting point. And I think that's a first step to solve the situation.
Yeah, that was a huge thing for me because I realized that I was having so much key information that was often like just duplicated. I would just have the same thing in 2 or 3 different places.